Hi guys, I hope you're fine. I'm back again with another video. This time around we are looking at Science Paper 2 2023 GCE. We will go through the first 20 questions in section A, which is multiple choice, and I hope you are going to find this interesting. So as we begin, may I suggest that you like, you share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also press on the bell button that each time such a video of this nature is posted on my channel, you will be the first person to be notified. So let's get started. Question 1. Question 1 reads, which of the following is not a branch of chemistry? Which of the following is not a branch of chemistry? Now, in your syllabus, you have 5 branches of chemistry, and these are biochemistry. Okay, let me just increase the font. The first one is biochemistry, inorganic, chemistry. The third one is organic chemistry. The fourth one is physical chemistry, and the fifth one is analytical chemistry. Now there is a way in which you remember this. You can use the acronyms. Acronyms that you can use are BIOPA, B for biochemistry, I for inorganic, O for organic, P for analytical, P for physical, and A for analytical. You can use this to remember the 5 branches of chemistry. And so the question is asking to say which one of the following is not a branch of chemistry. So we have biochemistry, it is a branch of chemistry, organic is a branch of chemistry, physical is a branch of chemistry, but thermodynamic is not a branch of chemistry. So the answer to question 1 is D, which is thermodynamics. We go to question 2. Which of the following statements distinguishes between an atom and an ion? First of all, what is an atom? You need to understand what an atom is. Now, an atom is a substance or the smallest unit of an element which takes part in a chemical reaction. But an ion is actually a charged atom. So in terms of charges, if you want to differentiate the two, an atom basically is neutral while an ion has an overall charge. So let's go to the multiple choice question A. An atom A has different numbers of protons and electrons, while an ion has equal numbers of protons and electrons. Wrong. If it was opposite, it would have made sense. B, an atom has no proton while an ion has protons. Then C, an atom is electrically charged while an ion is electrically neutral. Wrong. D, an atom is electrically neutral while an ion has an overall charge. So the answer for this one is D. Answer for number 2 is what? D. Move on to question 3. Question 3 says, which of the following pieces of apparatus can be used to measure accurately a fixed volume of the liquid? Now, there are these three apparatus that you need to know. There is burette, There's a pipette, there's a measuring cylinder, and there's also separating funnel. These four you need to know how they work. A burette is basically used to accurately measure a volume of a liquid, especially during titration, that is either an acid or a base. Then this one is used to measure a fixed volume, and it's actually 25.0 cubic centimeters or 25 milliliters. A measuring cylinder accurately measure, not accurately, but approximately measures the volume, while a separating funnel is a device used to separate two or more immiscible liquids. So we go back to the question. Question reads again to say which of the following pieces of apparatus can be used to measure accurately fixed volume. It's a pipette. So the answer for question 3, pipette, falls on C. Question 3 is what? C. What about question 4? Question 4 reads, identify a separation technique which can be used to separate the mixture of water and butane. Now, what is butano? Butano is an alcohol. An alcohol can mix uniformly with water, forming a miscible liquid or solution. And a separating funnel cannot be used to separate water and alcohol, but fractional distillation is used because these two, they have different boiling points and they form a miscible solution. So the answer for number 4 is C. The answer for number 5, let's go to question 5. A compound is a dash. A compound is basically a substance made up of two or more elements which are chemically combined. So when we go to the multiple choice answers, we have A, chemical combination of two or more elements. That's the answer. What about B? Combination of two or more mixtures? Nope. Mixture of two or more elements, that is an alloy basically. Physical combination of two or more elements, C and D are one and the same. So the answer is A. We go to question 6. Question 6 reads, which pair of elements form a compound by sharing electrons? Maybe before we find out which pair of which pair of elements form a compound by sharing, let's know what bonding is all about. So when we talk about bonding, we're basically saying that the prominent ones, two methods by which bonding happens, is one, by transfer of electrons from a metal to a non-metal. And this type of bonding basically is called ionic bonding. The other name for ionic bonding is electrovalent bonding. This is the first type. Then the other one is sharing of electrons between or among atoms of nonmetals. So now the question is, so when answering this question, we must rule out anything that is a metal, because we are saying that sharing of electrons happens in nonmetals. So anything to do with metals, we rule it out. So we use the elimination method. Sodium and chlorine must be out. Potassium and iodine must out. Why? Because potassium is a metal, sodium is a metal, and these others, the iodine and chlorine are non-metals. In fact, if you were to look at these two, you realize that this is ionic bonding. But when we go to these two, argon and oxygen, first of all, argon is found in group 8, which means that it's an inert gas. It exists as a monoatomic molecule. In other words, it exists as it is because it does not react. It is stable. It has an inert electronic configuration. But when we go to the other ones, nitrogen and oxygen, since we have ruled out D, C, and A, let's find out whether this can make sense. So nitrogen and oxygen, both of them are non-metals and they have valences. So the answer is B for number 6. Number 6, the answer is B. We move forward. We go to question 7. Pick question 7. This is what the question reads. Question 7 says an element of X forms an ion. This X 60 as the mass number and 27 as the proton number, but there is a charge of 3 plus here. What is the number of electrons, neutrons, and protons? So we understand that this one is like this. Then we have 60 and 27 here. Then there is a 3 plus here, which means it's a charge. So this question is asking the number of protons, the number of electrons, and also the number of neutrons. So how do we solve this? First of all, what you need to understand that when you have a nuclide notation in this manner, the number at the bottom, this one here, is the number of protons. From what your syllabus prescribes, remember it is usually like this. Here you have A and a Z. This Z is for protons. This one is for nucleons. So these nucleons, it is the number of protons plus the number of neutrons inside the nucleus of an atom. So now, what have we been given here? We've been given 60 and 27 and the 3 plus A. This 27 is the number of protons. But what about the number of neutrons? What is the number of neutrons? So the number of neutrons are determined using this formula where we say A, number of nucleons, is equal to Z plus N, where Z is proton number and N is number of neutrons. So in this case, here we have our A as 60, our Z as 27, but our N is not known. So let's apply that to the formula. So we're going to say 60 is equal to 27 plus N. We use the mathematical rules to achieve at the answer or to achieve the answer. We're going to say N is equal to 60 minus 27. Now, what is 60 minus 27? The answer gives us 33. This 33 is the number of neutrons. So when we go back here, we're going to say number of neutrons is 33. But what about the number of electrons? Now, in a neutral atom, the number of electrons, protons, is equal to the number of electrons. But here is one thing that you need to understand. There is this plus. This plus simply means that this ion has atom, for it to achieve this 3 plus, has lost 3 electrons. It has lost 3 electrons. Okay? Losing an electron means that it acquires a positive charge. Okay? So, If it gains 3 electrons, it's going to have a 3 minus. And why is it so? This is because in the nucleus, let me put it that way, in the nucleus, you have, for example, in this case, you have 27 protons. All these are positively charged. So in other words, you are saying you are having 27 positively charged subatomic particles. And on the shells, outside or around the nucleus, you have also 27 negatives, which are electrons. But when this atom receives 3 electrons, it means that it has received 3 more. When it has received 3 more electrons, but in this case it has a plus, so we are saying that it has lost 3 electrons. Okay, 3 electrons have been lost, and it now has 24 negatives, and then it still has 27 protons. So if we do the math here, you discover that you have 3 protons which are over compared to the electrons, and then you are going to have a 3 plus. So it means that the electrons must be 24. So our electrons must be 24 here. So which one is the answer? When we go back to our question, which one has 27 protons? 27 protons, there are 2, A and C. But which one has neutrons? 33. Between A and C, it's C, and 24 electrons. So the answer for question 7 is C. Question 7 is C. What about question 8? Question 8 says, which of the following is not a characteristic of an acid? By the way, a characteristic of an acid has to deal with positively charged ions. I mean, hydrogen ions as the only positively charged ions when in aqueous solution. But in this case, we have hydroxide. This means that it's a base. So the answer is B. Question 9. Which statement explains why salts do not conduct electricity in a solid state of matter? Okay. A, because the delocalized electrons in salts, this one is ruled out because you're talking about electrons instead of ion. Remember, salts are ionic compounds. So maybe B, which talks about ions. The ions in salts are not free and not mobile. Yes, without even checking the others. The answer for number 9 is B. What about question 10? Question 10, this is more concept question. When strongly heated, calcium carbonate decomposes according to the equation below. So you have calcium carbonate being heated, a change of heat, then you have calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. So given 500 grams of calcium carbonate, given that 500 grams of calcium carbonate were thermally decomposed, calculate the volume of carbon dioxide given of carbon dioxide gas which was produced at room temperature and pressure. So to answer this question, we need to understand something. That to answer this question, we need first of all to know the equation, whether it is balanced or not. So is our equation balanced? So we have calcium carbonate, a solid, being decomposed to calcium oxide, which is a solid, plus carbon dioxide gas. Now, is this equation balanced? Calcium 1, calcium 1, carbon 1, carbon 1, oxygen 3, oxygen 2 plus 1, 3. Balanced. Now, next step is to understand that so the next step after balancing the equation is to understand what it is looking at. So we have been given the mass of calcium carbonate. So whenever you are given things like this, try by all means to calculate the number of moles. Okay, so now we've been given to say calcium has 500 grams of mass, and what is the question is demanding for the volume of the gas produced. So first of all, let's find the number of moles of calcium carbonate. From there, to help us where to go. Mass over relative molecular mass, although in this case it's relative formula mass, but we interchangeably use these things. So the formula is number of moles is equal to mass over Mr. This one must be capital. So what do we have? We have mass, which is 500 grams, over relative molecular mass. You have 48 plus 12, this is 60. 60 plus 40, that is 100. So you are going to have 5 moles of calcium carbonate. Now, for us to find the volume of the gas, we're going to use the mole ratio, because we need to first find the moles of carbon dioxide and then be able to convert those moles to gas, since we've been given this room temperature and pressure as the molar volume. So this is how we're going to do. We get calcium carbonate. We're going to get calcium carbonate. We get calcium carbonate and say calcium carbonate to carbon dioxide. The mole ratio is 1:1 because the equation is already balanced in its state. So at this point, we're going to say how many moles have been produced by calcium carbonate? 5 moles. What about this side? And this is, since this is 1:1, we're going to have 5 moles of carbon dioxide. So we can use now those moles with the molar volume, which is at room temperature and pressure, to calculate the volume. Remember, the formula is number of moles is equal to volume over molar volume. So, what is the number of moles in this case of carbon dioxide? 5. 5 moles is equal to, what is the volume? That's the one we're looking for. Divided by, what is the molar volume? We've been told that it's room temperature and pressure. Now, you should always know that at room temperature and pressure, 1 mole of a gas is equal to, occupies a volume of 24.0 cubic decimeters. So this is the number we're going to use to put here. And also remember that there is also standard temperature and pressure, which is 22.4 cubic decimeters of volume is occupied by 1 mole of a gas at standard temperature and pressure. So here we do the cross multiplication. The volume will be equal to, if we multiply, we do the math properly there, we're going to find that it's 0, 10, 12, 120 cubic centimeters as the volume of carbon dioxide produced. Do we have 120? Oh yes, A is actually the answer. So question 10, the answer is A. The rest of the questions to be continued after a few minutes. I hope this video was helpful, guys, and thank you so much. Bye bye.